You know the story of Snow White, right? But have you ever really stopped to look under the hood at its building blocks? The jealousy, the creepy repetition, that pretty brutal justice at the end? It all locks together to make this story that just, well, lasts. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how this classic fairy tale is actually put together. Everything, and I mean everything, kicks off with this one famous question. And this isn't really about who's the prettiest. It's about a desperate, gnawing need for validation that's going to drag this entire story into some very dark places. This one line, right here, it's the whole conflict in a nutshell. Vanity versus virtue. Okay, so let's set the stage. Every story's got to start somewhere, and in Act 1, we meet our main players and get the fateful wish that really gets the ball rolling. I mean, it starts out so beautifully, so poetically. Snow White's whole existence comes from this wish for perfect beauty. Which, talk about irony, right? Because that same beauty is what almost gets her killed. But this perfect little picture doesn't last. Her mom, the good queen, dies, and that makes room for a very different kind of queen. And this right here just lays it all out, plain and simple. On one side, you've got Snow White. Her beauty is just a reflection of her kindness. But on the other side, the queen's beauty is this fragile, paper-thin mask hiding her massive ego. It's the ultimate setup of inner beauty versus outer beauty. You can just feel the collision coming. And boom, there it is. This is the exact moment it all goes wrong. The magic mirror, which can only tell the truth, just shatters the queen's ego into a million pieces. And to her, this isn't just an insult. Oh no, this is a declaration of war. That little seed of jealousy she had just blossoms into pure, consuming hatred. Wow, okay, that escalated quickly. The queen goes from 0 to 100, like, instantly. She doesn't just want Snow White gone. She needs proof. Gross, visceral proof. This is where you see that her vanity has already soured into just pure, murderous evil. But here's the first big twist. It's Snow White's kindness, the very thing that makes her fairer, that ends up saving her life. The huntsman just looks at the sweet, good person, and he can't do it. He can't go through with it. He chooses to lie instead of murder. And this one act of mercy is what lets the whole story move forward. So, Snow White is alive and hiding out, which only makes the queen's obsession get deeper and darker. This next section is all about the queen deciding, you know what? If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. So she's running for her life and she stumbles upon the most unlikely safe house you could imagine, the home of the 7 dwarfs. And they strike a deal, basically. She'll cook and clean and take care of the house, and in exchange, they'll give her a roof over her head and protection from the queen. Now, the dwarves, they aren't stupid. They know exactly how dangerous the queen is, and they give Snow White one very simple, very important rule. Do not let anyone in. And that warning just hangs there, right? It creates this sense of dread, because you know it's only a matter of time before that rule gets broken. And here we go. This is classic folklore stuff, the rule of 3. It builds a pattern, it builds suspense, and it makes that last attempt feel final. The queen, disguised as an old woman, attacks with things that are supposed to make you beautiful. First, a ribbon tied so tight that Snow White can't breathe. That fails. Then, a poisoned comb for her hair. That fails too. And finally, you know what's coming. The apple. Each try gets more clever and way more desperate. Okay, so the first 2 attempts were a bust, but for the villain, 3rd time's the charm. This brings us right to the climax of the story, the moment where the queen's evil plan finally looks like it's worked. This is honestly a brilliant piece of deception. The queen knows Snow White is wary, so she creates this apple that's half safe and half deadly. She takes a bite of the safe, white half herself to prove it's okay, and that's all it takes to trick Snow White into taking one single, fatal bite from the poisoned red half. And with that one bite, she's down. She just collapses. To everyone who sees her, she's dead. The queen's plan, born from pure rage, has finally come to its awful, terrible conclusion. And you can just picture the queen racing back to her castle, to her mirror. This is the moment she's been waiting for. The mirror finally gives her the answer she has been literally killing for. At this point in the story, the bad guy has won. Her ego is satisfied and all hope looks completely lost. But of course, the story isn't over yet. We're in the final act now, where a little twist of fate and a big dose of karma is going to bring this story to its very famous and very grim ending. The dwarfs are just heartbroken, but they see that even in this death-like sleep, she's still so beautiful, so untouched by it all. So they can't bring themselves to bury her in the cold, dark ground. Instead, they build this beautiful coffin made of glass. And this decision, this act of love, is actually the very thing that's going to save her. So then, a prince just happens to be riding through the woods. He stumbles upon this glass coffin, and he's just instantly mesmerized. He falls in love with her on the spot and begs the dwarves to let him take the coffin, saying he can't live without being able to look at her. It's a kind of weird request, but they see how passionate he is, and they agree. And get this, in the original Grimm's version, there is no magic kiss. What happens is, one of the prince's servants carrying the coffin just trips. He stumbles. And that jolt is enough to dislodge the piece of poisoned apple that's been stuck in Snow White's throat. And just like that, she wakes up. A clumsy accident is what undoes the queen's perfect crime. Incredible. So, back at the castle, the queen's getting invited to a royal wedding, having no clue that it's for the very girl she tried to kill. Feeling pretty good about herself, she asks the mirror one last time, and wham, the mirror hits her with the final devastating truth. There's a new queen in town, and she is beyond compare. And the punishment for the queen is, well, it's as cruel as her crimes. She shows up at the wedding, they recognize her, and they force her into a pair of iron shoes that have been sitting in a fire, and then they make her dance in them. Dance until she drops dead. Yeah, it is a truly grim ending for a grim fairy tale. So after all that craziness, the magic mirror, the murder attempts, the red-hot shoes, what's the point of it all? What does this classic story really want to teach us? Well, the story really boils down to a few clear things. We see over and over that Snow White's kindness is her real superpower. It's what saves her time and again. We also get a really strong dose of karmic justice. The wicked absolutely do not get away with it. But maybe the biggest message of all is that true beauty, that true fairness, has absolutely nothing to do with what you see in a mirror. It's all about what's inside. And that really brings us to our final thought. The whole story is built around this magic mirror that can only judge what's on the surface. But the entire point of the story is that what's on the surface is the least important thing. And it leaves us with a question that's maybe more relevant today than ever. In our own world, which is filled with mirrors, both literal and digital, how do we decide what's truly fair?